All right, welcome back. Final score: DeathWatch 90, Necron 66. I am looking back over this, and I am not really exactly sure what I could have done differently. Looking at this in a whole, I mean, failing a 5-inch charge was brutal. When I failed the charge on your henchman, should have stuck. Hitting them would have slowed them down. You wouldn't have been able to get my sticky objective, and that would have given me an additional 10 points, as well as taken 8 points away from you on your secondaries when you would have gotten capture enemy outpost. So that one really, 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 really hurt bad. That was a really big charge to fail. And so was losing 2 Catans on turn 1.
Turn 2.
Turn two.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was,
well, that's what I built this Death Watch list to do, is to kill things that are unkillable. I get one turn where I can kill real hard. And my dev wounds didn't even pop off that much. I think in the turn where I did the tome and sustained, I only had like 20 dev wounds, which is good. Definitely helped. But I think I may have rolled too few dice on a couple of the Terminator squads. I was doing 12 instead of 18. But no, it still did the trick that I needed to do, which was kill. The ability to kill 2 Satans in one turn was kind of huge.
Yeah, because the other one, as we saw as the game went on, that other one was much more difficult for you to take down.
Took a couple more turns.
Yeah. He was able to move through, and he did a lot of work since he existed. But that stung. That stung pretty bad. Like seeing that go down, and also, like I said, I'm struggling to see with the list in this what I actually did wrong. I was able to keep the objectives stickied throughout it, which was the whole point of Trazen. So that was nice to see. That kind of worked. I was able to get into your home deployment zone and shut off primaries a couple of times. That worked. But not having any resources at the end of the game is where I kind of got a little bit, that one hurt a little more than I would like to see. So that's something I'm going to have to look into and see how I can get maybe some more resources late into the game. One thing I'm considering is with the Locust Heavies, I can split one of them up into, since I'm not using any stratagems on them, I can take a 2-man and then take 2 singles as the Locust Heavies. So at least that gives me them late into the game resources. Maybe getting aggressive and going after that objective might not have been the best play. I could have probably hid behind the wall and just shot at that bike, and then nothing else would have been able to shoot at him except the bike coming back, and I would have had the Locust Heavies going into it. Because realistically, when you look into that and you look into late, 1 command point, pick the Locust up, spend a command point, I put him back down on that objective that you took, shoot down those guys, take the objective back, and now I'm getting overwhelming force, no prisoners, and some of that stuff I've seen at the end. On top of that, being able to, teleport in again, going last, being able to teleport in and then landing on the objective over here with these guys sticking the charge. Now I'm looking at 10 points at the end of the game, an additional 5 points. And now we're closing that gap. That's another that's 15 points. Like we said, you got secondaries probably up over where it's 44. I think it was, we said.
Yeah.
So even stopping capture enemy outpost would have brought you down to a 36. So it would have dropped you down to an 86 in general for your final score. For me, at a 66, giving me plus 15 is still only taking me up to what we got, 81. So we're still 9 points off. And that's what I'm going to have to look and see is where else I could have gotten those 9 points from. As far as primary, secondaries, like your army has a lot of resilience with, the Terminators having a 4-up embalm, being able to just, randomly dice go hot, you stop a 3 damage hit or a multi-damage hit, then that's a guy alive, and
that's one of the reasons I prefer them over the Redemptors, is because they have the invuln. Redemptors do have a 2-up armor, but there's so much stuff they can get through that. And having the 4-up invulns on the Terminators is good. Although, I mean, one of your Satans did wreck a bunch of Terminators, picked up 4 of them.
He had a good time. He had a good time there.
Yeah, I'm really glad I killed 2 of them early in the game, because if 3 of them were buzzing around the table, it would cause a lot more problems.
Yeah, and there might have also been a misplay in them. You know, moving the Nightbringer. Like when I was looking at some of the movements and some of the things I could have done, I needed to hold 2 objectives, and I went after that assassinate, hoping to hit that. Well, you know, going okay if I hit with 1, and realistically, you know, you're talking about a feel no pain. You have your armor save like that. Gaze of Death is only AP2, so you armor contempted into a 4-up. Realistically, looking at it with the D3 shots, that probably wasn't really the best case scenario to be doing that into, where I could have protected the Nightbringer entirely and made it like, okay, fine, well, let's burn a couple of turns. Because like as I see with the list, if I would have pushed you to turn 3 to do that, now everything that occurred late into the game, because when we look back at turn 4, for example, where was I turn 4 at the end of turn 4? I was on this objective. I had this objective. I stole that objective. I had objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't present the Catans to you, and with you having such heavy deep strike, which is a tell. It's not like, oh, okay, I know your list, but you have a lot of deep strike. So if I push you one more turn and say you don't have any viable targets or really good lanes, pun intended, then then I can push that extra turn to now turn 3. You obliterate the 2 Catans, and then let's cut out turn 5. You know, cut out how turn 5 actually scored out. I have more resources, so I probably should have held back for one more turn, and that's probably where it burned. Because like looking at the score sheet, even on that turn 4, I scored 10 and blanked you on primary, where you scored your 8 on secondary, and then we talk about that all the other stuff that occurred. I think that's kind of probably where I lost that. Is I need to play this even more cagey and reserved than I just did, and by putting the Nightbringer and another Catan even on that objective was probably a little bit too much. Also, a big one of it, and this would play into that whole strategy with the objective markers and placing them. Typically, in my mind, it's always here. Let's make it easy and put 1 just slightly into the deployment zone to ding it. I probably should have put 1 all the way in the corner with this list.
Because you come in from reserve on the edge. They have to be 6 inches from the table edge, but you come in within 6 inches.
Yes.
Yeah. So not the whole pie plate, just the 40mm marker.
Well, on top of that too, but then, okay, if I go and put the objective marker in that corner per se, and now I put a squad of Ophidians on there and just kind of splash them out a little bit just to cover the deep strike zone, now you can't get any shots on them. So in order to get to them, you're going to have to land and either stick a 9-inch charge or go around the building. So I think that would have, again, bought me more turns. You know, I could have taken a Catan and flew a Catan over there, landed on the objective, held it, and you're not going to be able to get those lanes on turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
Turn 3 is going to be a different story. But once again, now we've pushed into that. So this is surprisingly, like, this is actually a difficult detachment to play. I really feel that way. Like, I know that some people may be like, well, you're not using a lot of the stratagems. You're not using the monolith. But what any different would it have been? The monolith is more expensive than the Catans. And I guarantee if we roll the dice right now, that monolith goes away.
Oh, yeah. I pick it up in 1 turn.
Yeah. It becomes you pop the tome.
I have 12 eradicators, so and plus popping the tome, re-rolling the wounds, so all the dev wounds. It's just one thing. What is it? 2-up, 4-up invuln?
I can, but then I have to command point for the 4-up invuln.
Okay.
And in order to give it a feel no pain, I have to get a spider in there for a 6-up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the thing. So then the monolith, and on top of it with the monolith, you need so many different infantry that can utilize all those other strats to Eternity Gate, come out of the Eternity Gate, and then be able to charge and get close. And at the end of it, too, like I was saying, like we were talking, the more that's in engagement, the less I can pick up, which makes that difficult. So, because I want to make sure, I'm going to be really sad if I didn't catch this, but I want to make sure that I'm not allowed to pick them up at engagement. I'm sure you're not. There's nothing that lets you pick a unit up that's in engagement range.
Yeah, it's extremely rare.
But so talk to me about the changes. How do you feel with the Terminators over the other guys?
Good. I think the Terminators performed better than the Dreadnoughts, just because they can deep strike and get eyes on a target right away. They certainly have certain disadvantages in that their toughness is much lower and the Dreadnought reduces damage by 1. So it's not like Redemptors are bad. They're real good. But for this specifically, wanting to have one turn where you get all the devastating wound guns on the key targets, having them deep strike was great. And I'm playing DeathWatch. I didn't use it this game, but I do have a Teleportarium, so I can pick up an infantry squad and bring it back down. So I'm able to use that for Terminators, which I can't do with Dreadnoughts.
Yeah, that was in my mind, and that was one of the reasons I thought about keeping the Catan over in the corner and just clearing up all the Terminators. So I was like, man,
yeah,
if you pick this one Terminator up and drop it on an objective marker, not you take it and you kill my sticky.
Yeah.
And the one thing that
if these guys, if the Inquisitorial Henchman had died, I could have done that with one of the remaining Terminator models or 2 Eradicators.
Which was
picked them up and dropped them.
Which was constantly in my mind. It was constantly in my mind. And that's where, but what I wanted to have happen was the Locust charge, hit them henchmen, probably honestly not kill them at 2 wounds apiece, because the Locusts, I mean, they're strength 4. They ain't doing no AP, not 1 damage. They ain't doing much.
Yeah.
So they kill 1. But if you fall back, as we measured, you would not have made it to the objective. And then having those Locusts over there, they would have been a little bit deeper into cover, more protected, better chance of survivability, and then finish off those guys, sweep back over, and just hang out on the objective. That was the plan. That was the plan, but as we can see, that didn't happen. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna look back when I go to put this whole game together and edit it and see. But initially I don't see anything I want to change with the list. I feel like I'm going in the right direction. I've been able to get the C command points to a point where I have enough command points to run the army and do everything I want. I knocked you off your home objective like 3 out of 5 turns. Basically,
yeah. But I mean, next time I can just screen it better and make sure that I could have put one of the ATVs on there and then the company command squad and circle around the objective, basically blocking you out so you can't get within an inch of them and be on the objective.
But that was nice. But
for someone who has not ready for this detachment, now that I've had the practice into it, I know exactly what they can do and steal home field objectives. But someone who hasn't had the practice into this detachment, that's going to be a big surprise. They're not going to like.
But that's also a big thing to talk also again about the objective being in the corner versus on there versus in the middle. Having that objective in the middle, all 3 of them, it gave power to your gun line even more. So I think that some of this stuff. This is when I played the Canoptic Court, I had a lot more damage output, especially being able to reroll to hit. This, I don't have as much damage output. And much like with Grey Knights, I need to start thinking about those defensive tactics of where to put things. So I think that like going from start to finish, I needed to place the objective marker better. The one that I controlled outside, I needed to place that one better.
Mm-hmm. Because in this mission, you just need to hold 2 objectives the whole game. Mm-hmm. And neither of us maxed out primaries because you had a turn where you blanked me on primaries as well. But yeah, you just need to hold 2 through all 5 turns.
And that was what I was trying to do. That's more or less what I was trying to do with the sticky. That's why I was moving away. It's like, okay, if you ding this and take away my sticky, I still have 2. But it was a matter of like how much coverage so that even if you did hit me on objective, I still had objectives in other places scoring, which was efficient. That worked really well. So that kind of gives me some to try Trayson again. I wouldn't mind running him again. He did his job. The Wraiths, I don't know if I sent them to their death. I can't quite put my finger on if I shouldn't have done that, if I should have held back. But I could have put Immortals out there and just taken the objective and maybe not been as crazy going after your home field objective and let the Wraiths play into later turns. So I think some of that kind of plays into it too. The Ophidians were fine. I had one unit, one turn that I didn't know what to do with them, and they probably could have taken the center. So I'm gonna look into tweaking it a little bit, but all in all, I don't really necessarily want to change too much. I kind of just want to change my play into how this all went down.
Yeah, I think you have to you have to do a lot of math with this list because you can do things to take objectives and score secondaries, but then you also lose those things very quickly. So it's just a matter of whether the points are worth it because, you came down on my home field objective for a couple turns, but how many points did that use up, with a squad of immortals plus the
That not
character?
much. That not much. That was like only
Yeah.
115, 120 points. So that
Okay,
wasn't
yeah,
that
so that's
much.
good.
But needless to say, still into that, if I wasn't going as crazy into that, I probably could have zoned out and protected the Catans longer into the game. The longer the Catans live, the less aggressive you really want to go
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to push into them and have them turn around and come into you. A lot of talk. It's easy to criticize the army that loses and kind of talk about that because it's like where we go with this. But let's. I want to close it out and talk about some of the Death Watch because Death Watch 90 point. That's still a strong win. That's still a very solid, very strong win. We have not seen you really hit something that has been able to really do a lot of damage to you yet and actually remove some stuff. So that's one thing I'm actually considering that I need to work on this some more. And I think that you need to definitely run into something that could potentially start picking up some of those things, and remove some of your threats at a faster rate. Um, Going into that though, those tanks are just really tough to take down. I eventually just gave up on them and tried to go after other things. And that was when I was able to start picking up and removing some of your stuff. Your infantry is what you need to score and win the game. Is there anything right now that you fear? Now, fear is pretty deep into it, but concern as far as that goes. Like you hit, and then someone hits you back and pulls a lot of that infantry off there because I pushed a lot of your infantry off the board that turn after you hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just I think things like Chaos Space Marines right now. I think they're extremely efficient. They're extremely deadly, and they're just a little bit too cheap. The last couple times I've played against them, they just overwhelm you. They just move everything up the board, and it doesn't matter if you kill 3 or 4 units because they have 5 or 6 more units that can do an incredible amount of damage. So I think Chaos Space Marines would be tricky. Though I did build this specifically so that I can eliminate 2 transports and then also everything that's inside those to pick up squads of chosen.
Right.
The idea with the eradicators and all the dev wounds is that I pick my tome of Exclades targets as the 2 squads of chosen inside the rhinos. The eradicators come in, reroll hits, wounds, and damage into the rhinos, and then everything else eliminates the chosen. So, but that's only a small chunk, really. I mean, it's like what, a quarter of their army. I think the Chaos Space Marines are going to see some point increases that might make it a little more balanced, but we'll see.
I think that orcs might give you some trouble.
Yeah. I mean, not orc infantry because I have 100 strength 6 shots with no AP that are going to tear through orc infantry really quickly. The orc vehicleists might be a little bit different. They'll still do a fair amount of damage into those.
They do have a lot of bodies though, and that can bog you down. And that's why I'm wondering if that might bog down where it's not like necessarily they're doing any damage to you, but it feels like you're just killing, and stuff's not going away. So that's one, but more so actually now that I think about it, who was it? I just had it that's in my mind for damage dealing horde scattered. It'll come back to me, but I do feel like orcs could give you a little bit of trouble in there, just because of just sheer size, and they might be able to block out some of your deep strike lanes, block out some of the exact points.
Yeah, it's something I probably wouldn't deep strike as much into orcs because they're going to come at me. An orc player is not going to sit on their side of the table. And typically, if we're talking about massed infantry, they can't really hide very well anyways. Mm-hmm. Like it's easier to pick up lanes. But I don't really know about a more vehicle, more mech-heavy orc list because I haven't really played that recently. But I think into infantry, like I said, the thing about orcs is that they're T5. But so many of the assault cannons and Gatling cannons are strength 6, so I'm wounding them pretty well. And on that turn, I pop off sustain. It's going to chew through a lot of boys. Eldar are still tricky. I mean, they're still real strong right now.
World leaders.
Yeah.
World
Yeah, I kind of put world in my head. I put World Eaters and Chaos Space Marines kind of together, but World Eaters are just a fighter Chaos Space Marine.
And also the fact that because you're going through like unit, you could trigger them getting closer and closer and closer to you, depending on. So that could be. I haven't seen that go. I haven't seen that as efficient and effective in like that type of matchup with your style of shooting versus that style of corn and world eaters. And I also have just recently started seeing some 10-man berserkers, and they're the ones who are really going to push across. So that may not even be the concern there, and it might turn into how some armies look at world eaters. If world eaters go first, then that's when we talk. But world eaters, I mean, and that's also sometimes how the world eater player look at it, is like, I need to go first to maximize the game plan. So that might be just something that it's like you look at it and go, well, they're going first. That's it. Because world eaters just happen to have that hard hitting of a punch on turn one.
Yeah.
And that really could turn into just like the map, the loadout, the this, the that, the other. So world eaters, it's kind of a weird column. Custodes, I feel like you vaporize them, actually.
Yeah, no, because their mortal wound defense does not work against the dev wounds. So I would just one turn when I pick up the two biggest things Custodes have on the table, and then they don't really have a whole lot. I mean, they'll have other things, but they don't have that many units. So I think it would chew through them pretty quickly. I don't. I'm sure the thing. I'm not saying this. My list is perfect or anything, but I definitely feel it has play into most things. And my previous Death Watch lists, I definitely felt like I kind of ran up against things that were difficult. I think this has better play than the kill teams. I don't think the kill teams are really great right now. So I found this seems to be kind of shenanigan. And like I said, I rolled under average as far as actually the number of dev wounds I did in my big turn. But I'm not going to complain about it because I killed two of the hardest things to kill in the game, the Catan. So it definitely feels like there's some play into this. I think there are times when the secondaries might shut me down a little bit. But I have deep striking stuff, and I can pick up and drop down too. So,
well, as we've talked about a couple of times, next weekend we'll be traveling for our team event, and because of that, I want to get over into the Grand Knights mindset. So, for your sake, I think next week we should probably do Grey Knights into your DeathWatch. You've won 2 games in a row, so I will yield that your list. We're gonna let's work with yours a little more and make sure that you're fully dialed in. And then once you're dialed in with that, and you can say, okay, I like this, I'm going to set it on the shelf for a GT. Then we'll come back and work on the Necrons some more, because I feel like there's play, but because of your gimmick of removing these things so quickly, I'm not able to see, because now it's to a point of like, if you look at mine and go, well, maybe reduce the number of Catans, but maybe not. Which is it? Like,
and my list is weirdly built. It's very. I'm not going to say it's skewed, but it definitely has the ability to pick up Catans way better than most other armies.
Right. And that's what I want to see too. Is like when I'm able to run with the Catans a little deeper into the game, like then it might be a sense of, oh, okay, I have enough resources. I just need to protect the Catans better into that and get past your deep strikes. Push to turns 2 and 3. Push that out. And that comes with practice. But I need to see if I want to lock the list in or not right now. Definitely still, I'm going to look at a couple of tweaks. Like the Locust Heavies were a last-minute add. And it is 200 points that could go into something else if I find something else in there. The Ophidians, I could still technically drop 1 squad and go down to just 1. Once again, this game, I didn't really need the 2 of them. It was cool when they charged. That was efficient, but I'll look into it a little more. There might be something I'm not fully looking at, or maybe I'll drop 1 Catan, go double, and use those points going something. So there might be there's. It feels like there's just one little piece that's missing to this puzzle, and mess around with it, or like I said, separate the Locust Heavy Destroyers. Because all in all, a lot of it functioned the way I wanted to, and the secondaries I was able to keep pushing. And I feel like if I would have forced you to drop on turn 3, since you went first. Yeah, you went first. So if I could have delayed and made you deep strike poorly You know, you have infantry. It's kind of hard to really make you deep strike bad, but make you deep strike not to the intent that you want. Then maybe instead of killing 2 Catan, you only kill 1, but you put 1 at a point that it's just got to sit in the back corner for most of the game and try and heal. So I definitely wouldn't mind trying this again, but you got the 2 wins. So either I think it'd be best I'll play Grey Knights against you, warm up my mind, get back into the Grey Knight scheme of things.
The 2-up armor will make them super durable because I have so much stuff that's no AP. Other than the turn where I pop off with Dev Wounds, it's going to take a lot of work to chew through a lot of the Grey Knights because everything's 2-up armor.
Right. And I have 2 things that I know that are definitely going to get hit by those Dev Wounds. One's a Land Raider and the other's a Dread Knight. Those would be definitely the big targets. But
yeah, that's for the Eradicators. The Eradicators will take care of one of those, or 2 of those. More like those, what's a
Purifiers?
Purifiers, yeah. They're working in my infantry. I'll try to make them go away.
Alrighty. Well, we'll definitely look into it. I might tweak my list a little bit to get those Libbies in here since I'll be playing those next weekend. So I wouldn't mind messing around, dropping them in there and deep striking around and just getting used to their damage output and stuff. So I might tweak that. You know, I haven't been in my list, as you know, I haven't been fully sold on the Tech Marine. So I could pull him out temporarily and mess around with the Libbies for a little bit and just see how they feel with it. Maybe I'll like him in there because I like the Tech Marine. I like what I've done with him and stuff, like how he's able to get onto an objective in the back and just get shot and then jump away and stuff like that. I like that, but having a smaller librarian, a smaller base, it could funnel him into some real tight spots to be able to just land, pour Psychic into a weaker unit. You know, I mean that the librarian versus your company command squad, that's a different fight. That's a different fight. You know, he goes in there with psychic powers, and next thing you know, half the squad's gone, and they're looking, going, "Oh, okay. Oh, and you still have a 2-up, 4-up we have to get through too. This is going to be interesting." So, and then I have my Terminators too. I could slap a librarian on there, and that's some buffs. So, man, disappointing night. Steelers get beat up. Necrons get beat up. Haven't won a game all year. Sure you want me on your team next weekend?
January. Yeah, well, I beat you before a tournament, and then you do well at the tournament. That's
yeah,
how
I know.
Then that's how it works.
Yeah, you smud my face into the dirt, and then all of a sudden I go, "Hey, guess what? I'm undefeated and just won a GT." You know, that's just you know, lose. That's the advice you can take away from today. Before you go to a GT, lose every single game going up to the GT, and then you win the GT. That's all. That's it. Just roll 6s. Just roll 6s.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this evening. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.